The top stories tonight in Y News. The United States of America hopes to start COVID-19 vaccinations by mid-December. The Department of Health warns against the use of unregistered COVID-19 vaccine following reports that some lawmakers have already been inoculated against COVID-19.
The government assures that the country has enough health workers despite lifting of overseas deployment ban. The Department of Transportation orders its officials to submit their statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, the Anti-Graft Task Force.
PNP Chief General Debord Sinas taps the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group to probe the killing of former Holo Police Chief Lieutenant Colonel Walter ANNAYO. And relatives commemorate the Maguindanao massacre 11 years after the worst election-related violence in the country's history took place.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Monday, November 23, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. The head of the United States government's coronavirus vaccine effort has said that the first doses of the drug will hopefully be administered by mid-December if it gets regulatory consent. Maeve Yandog will give us the details why live. Yes, Maeve?
Harleen, Dr. Monsef Slawi, the chief scientific advisor for Operation Warp Speed, recently advised that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration would likely grant approval for distribution of one of the two vaccine candidates in mid-December. This will be the largest inoculation campaign in U.S. history, which involves the vaccine jointly produced by Pfizer and German partner BioNTech. The Pfizer vaccine was found by the company to be 95% effective against the virus, and its emergency use application is set to be reviewed by the FDA's outside advisors on December 10, while Moderna Incorporated will seek for a separate approval of its vaccine later in December. Meanwhile, the Americans who will be first in line to receive the vaccines will be recommended by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, along with an advisory panel on immunization practices. According to Dr. Slawi, the first inoculations are likely to include doctors, nurses, frontline emergency medical personnel, as well as elders, for having the highest risk of severe illness and death from the virus. Dr. Slawi also said on NBC's Meet the Press program that within 24 hours from the approval, the vaccine will be moving and located in the areas where each state wanted the vaccine doses. He also expects that maybe after the approval on December 11 or 12, the first people will be immunized across the United States. Harleen?
Maeve, what does the U.S. cases look like at the most recent, and what can the country expect ahead from the rollout of these vaccines?
Harleen, on Saturday, the COVID-19 cases in the United States surpassed 12 million. And according to public health experts, this will worsen as millions of Americans are preparing to travel and gather for the upcoming holidays in December. Now, according to Dr. Slawi, he is hoping for a smooth handoff of the vaccine and for the vaccine efforts to not be derailed. He is also optimistic that the country could achieve 70% of the U.S. population of 330 million to be vaccinated and achieve herd immunity from the virus by May 2021. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Maeve Yandong, reporting live. Malacanang assures that the country has enough health workers to address the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic even after President Rodrigo Duterte lifted the deployment ban on medical professionals. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte has lifted the deployment ban of healthcare workers abroad the government implemented in April 2020. According to Presidential Spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque, this is due to the lower daily COVID-19 cases in the country, as well as the possible availability of the COVID-19 vaccine against coronavirus disease in the coming months. The Chief Executive has approved the recommendations made by the Department of Labor and Employment and the Interagency Task Force Against COVID-19.
Pero ngayon naman po, nakikita natin na napapabagal naman po natin ang pagkalat ng sakit dito sa Pilipinas. Pangalawa po ay malapit na rin po magkaroon ng bakuna laban sa sakit nito.
Malacanang assures the government has considered the decision very well and balanced the need of the country's healthcare workers. This is also to provide healthcare workers the opportunity for full employment, as well as to raise the standard of living and improve the quality of life. It was in April when the government implemented the deployment ban of nurses and healthcare workers due to the COVID-19 situation in the Philippines. Meanwhile, according to Presidential Spokesperson Roque, effective January 1, 2021, the government will implement a deployment ceiling or will only allow 5,000 health workers to be deployed abroad every year.
Yung 5,000 po ay more or less, yan yung estimate ni Secretary Bello na mga health professionals na nais at po pwede nang umalis. Kasi hindi naman po madali umalis, lalo na kung gusto niyo pumunta sa lugar gaya ng Amerika. Napakatagal po ng proseso dyan. No? So, yun lang po yung mga nag-aabang na sanang umalis.
Though the palace mentioned about the possibility of increasing the number of the deployment ceiling. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health warned the public and manufacturers on Monday against selling unregistered drugs that have not been cleared as safe and effective by the country's health and regulatory officials, following reports that some lawmakers have already been inoculated against COVID-19. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
DOH spokesperson Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara reminded the public that no vaccine against the coronavirus disease has been approved yet. Undersecretary Vergara made the statement following reports that Senator Panfilo Lacson and House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez had allegedly received COVID-19 vaccine shots. The health official warns the public against unregistered vaccines.
Until there is this registered vaccine from FDA, dun po tayo dapat magkaroon ng pag-access nito. Kaya natin po pinaparegister at dinadaan sa regulatory process itong mga bakunang ito para masigurado po natin na ligtas itong bakuna na ibibigay sa inyo at saka ito ay efficacious.
The health official added that manufacturers will be caught distributing and selling unregistered vaccines will be sanctioned.
Please, antayin po nating matapos ang mga regulatory procedures natin bago po kayo mag-distribute ng mga ganitong bakuna because we are now talking about lives of people and public health should be protected.
The DOH also reminds the public to await for the regulatory procedure of the FDA. Undersecretary Vergara assures that politicians are not given special treatment as the government has a priority list for the immunization program.
We will be very transparent with this list kung sino po ang dapat mabigyan dahil sila po talaga yung vulnerable at saka kailangan mabigyan para at least maputol po natin yung transmission. Ngayon, kung meron po tayong mga officials katulad namin na papasok dyan sa criteria na yan, halimbawa po elderly na kami o di kaya po ay meron po kaming mga kasama po kami dun sa listahan, edi mabibigyan po tayo.
The DOH further reminds the people to continue observing preventive health measures. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization-led Solidarity Trial is expected to start in December. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque answered Vice President Leni Robredo after she called on the government to prepare the list of COVID-19 vaccine recipients. According to Roque, the government has already identified the recipients of its massive immunization. Rosalie Cos explains why.
The Duterte administration does not need to adopt the suggestion of Vice President Leni Robredo on providing the list of the first recipients for the COVID-19 vaccine. According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, President Rodrigo Duterte's statement on the issue is clear. The poorest of the poor, frontliners, and the personnel of the police and the military are the top priorities. The list is already available through the Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino program or 4Ps of the government, the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police, and the Department of Health.
We don't have to adopt the suggestion dahil meron na po kaming listahan. So, thank you very much again. But again po, a bit too late kasi si Presidente Duterte po 10 steps ahead.
Meanwhile, the government also reassures that the poorest of the poor Filipinos will be the first recipients of the COVID-19 vaccine. The palace made the statement after reports that Senator Panfilo Lacson and House Majority Leader Martin Romualdez were already vaccinated against COVID-19.
Kung meron hong ibang mga tao na nakapagbakuna na, hindi po yan galing sa gobyerno. Ang assurance ng Presidente, basta binili po ng ating gobyerno, uunahin ang pinakamahihirap.
Meanwhile, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere ensures transparency on the vaccination program of the government.
Pero kagaya nga ng sabi natin, tayo po ay nandito pa lang sa stage kung saan fina-finalize po natin ang plano, fina-finalize po natin yung mga criteria natin for identifying areas to be included and of course individuals.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
COVID-19 cases in the Philippines increased to 420,614 after 1,799 new infections were reported today, the Department of Health said. A total of 135 newly recovered patients were recorded, bringing the national recovery count to 386,604. There are also 50 new fatalities, bringing the death toll to 8,173. Cavite has the highest number of new cases with 154, followed by Rizal with 114, Quezon City with 99, Bulacan with 76, and Laguna with 67. There are 25,837 active cases. 83.5% are mild, 7.8% are asymptomatic, and 5.5% are in critical condition, and 2.9% are severe. According to the Health Department, cases of the disease in the country continue to plateau with less than 2,000 new confirmed cases per day. Motorcycle taxis will hit the roads once more, 8 months after they were suspended amid the COVID-19 pandemic. But the technical working group from the Department of Transportation clarified that no new players will be allowed to join the pilot run. Joanne Nano will tell us why live. Yes, Joanne.
Yes, Jago, as motorcycle taxis are set to resume their operations, the technical working group headed by the Department of Transportation explains that no new motorcycle taxi players will be allowed to join the test run. Transportation spokesperson Assistant Secretary Goddess Hope Libiran says that since this is only an extension of the pilot study, regulations that was set last March will still be followed. However, new guidelines should be implemented in compliance with the minimum health standards. Among these were the use of plastic barriers, no sharing of helmet, as well as the use of cashless payment for fare collection.
Kung ano yung scope, ano yung coverage, ano yung number of slots allotted for motorcycle taxi players and riders, yun lang din yung susundin natin for this pilot study because this is just an extension.
Under the guidelines that was set by the technical working group, 63,000 motorcycle taxi units will be permitted to operate in the country. 45,000 units will be allotted in Metro Manila and 9,000 units respectively for Metro Cebu and Cagayan de Oro. Ang CAS has yet to resume operations pending additional requirements such as each rider should be equipped of a thermal scanner, and a health declaration checklist should also be provided for each rider as well as the passengers. Angkas will be given a notice to proceed from the TWG after complying so they could resume their operations. The same procedure applies for Joyride and Move It. With this, the DOTR has called on the motorcycle taxi riders to comply with the new protocol set by the government in order to prevent further transmission of COVID-19.
We are urging them, ang gobyerno, tinulungan sila para makabawi sila dun sa kanilang kabuhayan. In-extend natin itong motorcycle taxi pilot study so that their riders will continue to earn income despite the pandemic, but we're urging them to cooperate with the government.
Jago, the extension of the pilot study will run in the next 3 months as a law is yet to be enacted legalizing the operations of motorcycle taxis. And that is the latest live. Back to you, Jago.
Thank you, Joanne Nano, for that report.
And for those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, is looking into the motive behind Saturday's killing of former Jolo Police Chief Walter ANNAYO. ANNAYO was relieved from his post for command responsibility after his men and Sulu policemen shot to death 4 Army intelligence agents at a checkpoint in June. Leia Ilagan explains why.
Philippine National Police Chief Police General Sinas has stopped the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, to probe the killing of relieved Jolo Sulu Police Chief Lieutenant Colonel Walter ANNAYO in Maguindanao Province over the weekend. PNP Chief Sinas said investigators have yet to determine whether ANNAYO's killing is connected to the previous assignment as Jolo Police Chief. Based from the police report, ANNAYO was shot dead by unidentified assailants on board a white sports utility vehicle while buying a drink in Narciso Ramos Highway, Barangay Macabiso, Sultan Mastura, Maguindanao last Saturday afternoon.
Ongoing pa yung investigation ng PROBAR. We have already requested CIDG to assist mag-investigate doon. As of now, yung cadaver ni ANNAYO ay inuwi na sa bahay nila.
Sinas also denied the speculations that the killing of ANNAYO is a retaliatory attack from the shooting incident involving 9 police officers who allegedly shot dead 4 Army intelligence operatives in Jolo last June 29. Sinas believes that ANNAYO has no direct participation in the incident.
But ang point is, the Chief of Police was not directly involved doon. Kaya nga ang Chief of Police hindi kasama sa na-custody. He was relieved for command responsibility.
Sinas also confirms that the 9 policemen involved in the shooting incident are now in low morale due to the killing of their former chief of police. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, even with the landmark convictions of primary suspects last year, the quest for justice over the 2009 Maguindanao massacre continues as appeals remain pending and dozens of suspects remain at large. Dante Amento will tell us why live. Yes, Dante, good evening.
Yes, William, today marks the 11th anniversary of the Ampatuan massacre that happened last November 23, 2009. And it is almost 1 year after the promulgation of judgment against the several accused of the gruesome killings. 43 individuals were convicted, including the 5 members of the Ampatuan clan. But the families and relatives of the victims believe that the fight in the case is far from over. Mary Grace Morales, who lost her husband and sister, is disappointed because there are some accused who are still at large.
Nakakasama rin lang kasi ng loob na makarinig na yung kaso ng Ampatuan Massacre or Maguindanao Massacre ay resolved na since ang dami pang at large. Tapos ito pang case ni Mumay nilalaban pa namin at yung mga convicted na mga ampatuans ay nag-file pa ng bail sa higher court. So paano po nila nasasabi na tapos na yung kaso?
Meanwhile, Renafe Mumay Castillo, daughter of the photojournalist Rinaldo Momay, stresses that her father was among those killed in the massacre. The court did not include Rinaldo Momay in the case because his remains were not found.
I can only wish one day that 57 will be up by 1, since it matters more to me than before. Let us remember, the 58th victim was my father, and that the victim is Reynaldo Bebot Momay.
Attorney Nena Santos, one of the victims' lawyers, says the case is not yet over because they have still pending motions to include the increase of civil damages for the families of the victims. There are still 76 at large from the first wave of accused, which are allegedly still under the protection of the Ampatuan. And out of the 48 individuals that were included in the second wave of accused, only 8 of them were indicted and 40 others were dismissed.
Nakakapagtaka to kasi lahat ng mga hindi nag-file ng counter affidavit, natanggal pa rin sa kaso. So, sabi ko, ano ba to? Pwede ba yun? Diba automatic na may probable cause ka kung hindi ka nag-counter affidavit? Tapos dito, ang daming hindi nag-counter affidavit.
William, the victims, and Attorney Santos believe that until the higher court will have the final decision on their motions and those at large will be put behind bars, the case will remain unresolved. And that's the latest live. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Dante Amento, reporting live.
The Cagayanons are still reeling from the effects of Typhoon Ulysses in the province. Many residents are still appealing for help for their basic needs like food and water. Asher Kadapan Jr. will tell us why.
It has been over a week since Typhoon Ulysses hit the country. Cagayan was one of the many provinces severely affected by flood due to Cagayan River overflow during the onslaught of the said typhoon.
Hindi namin ine-expect kasi madaling araw yun. So ang nangyari, nung time na dumating sa kabahayan, nagulat ang mga tao. Bigla na lang hindi namin na ayos ang aming gamit, mga hayop.
But due to the damage in livelihood, residents in the province of Cagayan rely significantly on relief goods. Consequently, several organizations from various sectors relentlessly deliver and distribute aids to affected population.
This is an agricultural province. The farmers are expecting to harvest within this week, but all their palays have been washed out. So gutom talaga sila and they will be heavily indebted. So this relief goods will be very timely for them and will be a very big help for them, at least to get over, makapasan man for the next few months before they start planting again.
A private group also provided boxes of litter of light, a light-producing equipment which utilizes solar energy that can be used in incidents of power interruptions or outages. Despite the challenges brought about by the calamity, residents try to remain optimistic and continue with a normal life.
Hindi mo na kailangan magreklamo sa ganung bagay kasi ganito na yung sitwasyon eh. Napapasalamat na lang kami kasi kahit pa paano naging okay din naman kami. Wala naman may nangyari sa amin.
Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Senators are urging the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, to fast-track the release of the 83 billion peso unspent funds in its coffers. In today's Senate session, the Senate adopted a resolution calling on the agency to disburse the unused funds to provide assistance to Filipinos recovering from the series of typhoons that hit the country amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The DSWD has yet to comment on the latest resolution, but in a statement it released last week, the agency explained that they experienced delays in the disbursement of funds because of the limitations caused by COVID-19 pandemic. The agency also assured that the funds will be released within the year.
14 quarry operators in Albay have been found violating some environmental laws. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
The investigating team from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DNR, pointed some violations committed by some quarry operators down the Mayon volcano. According to Environment Undersecretary Jonas Leones, 14 operators have been found violating environmental laws.
Ang paglabag na nakita namin doon yung nag-exceed sa kanilang allowable area at yung mga iba naman mga expired permits.
The official notes that violators may face administrative cases and be fined with an amount of 50,000 pesos per violation. A temporary suspension has been imposed on all quarrying operations, and that those found violating laws will be an extended operations stoppage. Meanwhile, Yusek Leones said that the quarry operations may have worsened the lahar mud flows, burying an estimated 300 houses in Barangay San Francisco in Ginebatan, where several residents died. He added that affected residents may file a claim. Meanwhile, the Build Back Better or Triple B Task Force is now conducting an assessment to typhoon hit areas. The task force was created by President Rodrigo Duterte through Executive Order No. 120 and now chaired by Secretary Roy Simato. Leones said the task force will meet on Friday to collate recommendations and make a blueprint on how to rehabilitate Cagayan, Isabela, Marikina, and provinces in Bicol. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Some congressional districts got higher infrastructure budget after the House leadership change. This was the supposed pattern that Senator Panfilo Lacson said he noticed in the House version of the proposed 2021 national budget under the new leadership. In a radio interview yesterday, Lacson said there were infra budgets that increased and also decreased in the General Appropriations Bill or GAB compared to the National Expenditure Program or NEP. The senator claims that districts that got an increased budget are those whose representatives have allegedly closer ties with House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco. Although the increases cannot be strictly tagged as pork insertions, Lacson believes that some congressmen had a hand and intervened with the allocations of the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, to get commissions in the implementation of the projects. Earlier, the senator questioned the billions of pesos of funds allocated to 227 congressional districts for infrastructure projects under the House version of the proposed national budget. Speaker Velasco has yet to comment on the claim, but House Appropriations Committee Chairperson Eric Yap earlier denied such claims, noting that all the allocations and changes were made by the DPWH. Meanwhile, the Senate is eyeing to pass the 2021 national budget on December 29. Senate President Vicente Soto III said they will finish the period of amendments and pass the Senate version of the bill on Thursday. Soto adds he supports the call of the House leadership to increase the calamity fund in view of the recent typhoons that battered parts of the country. The Senate leader also assured that they will increase the funding for the storage and distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Pagka-ratified na yun, the day after, I will sign it already. I will send it to Speaker Velasco for his signature, and they will be the one to send the enrolled copy to the President.
For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
The government's task force against corruption is set to receive the statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, or SALN, of officials of the Department of Transportation, or DOTR. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara said that the task force would use the SALN of officials in investigating possible graft and corrupt practices in the agency. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Department of Transportation or DOTR has ordered its officials to submit their Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth or SALN to the Task Force Against Corruption. This is in support to the government's campaign against corruption in the entire government, but Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara clarified that the TFAC or the Task Force Against Corruption is not requiring government agencies to submit their SALNs of their respective officials. It was the DOTR's own initiative to submit their employees' SALNs, just like what Secretary Arthur Tugade had mentioned in one of their meetings with the President. Guevara pointed out that the task force may need the SALN of any government official or employee only if he is involved in a specific investigation being conducted by the Task Force Against Corruption. Based on the DOJ's report, the task force has already received 60 complaints on corruption against some agencies including the DOTR. These reports are currently being evaluated by state prosecutors to determine which of them will be given priority for investigation. Dantiamento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, lawmakers want the House of Representatives to investigate the Manila Electric Company or Meralco's alleged purchase of costly power from a coal-fired power plant in Mauban, Quezon. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why live. Good evening, Vincent.
William, House Resolution number 1350 urges the Committee on Energy to conduct an investigation in aid of legislation on the allegedly high generation charges by the Quezon Power Philippines Limited Company or QPPL to Meralco. The resolution was filed by Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate and Representative Eufemia Kulamat. According to the resolution, the QPPL is perennially the most expensive coal power in the country since year 2000, with rates of 9% to 12% higher than other coal plants. But this 2020, Meralco allegedly paid QPPL a 51% to 82% higher than other coal plants. The alleged 1.601 billion kilowatt hour of electricity that Meralco bought from the QPPL has an average price of 6.73 pesos per kilowatt hour, while other coal power supplier to Meralco on that same period are priced around 4.2 pesos per kilowatt hour only. This means that due to the alleged overpriced electricity, around 4.05 billion pesos of payment will be passed on to Meralco consumers. William, according to the resolution, it is not acceptable for Filipino consumers to be under deceit and unfair acts and burden them with higher electricity bills just to satisfy the profit of capitalists and power oligarchs. That's the latest slide. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Vincent Arboleda, reporting live. And for the news abroad, here's Elsie Marcos reporting live from New Zealand.
Good evening, William. The selection of incoming cabinet members of President-elect Joe Biden faces several obstacles, but announcement of appointees is still expected on Tuesday. Sunny Cos will tell us why.
Although several Republican senators indicated that they welcome President-elect Joe Biden's cabinet picks, the General Services Administration, the federal agency responsible for starting the formal presidential transition process, has not yet certified Biden's victory, meaning Biden's team as well as the senators cannot access federal resources such as background checks from the Federal Bureau of Investigation or FBI. Despite these obstacles, President-elect Biden will announce his first cabinet picks on Tuesday, according to his top advisors. In an interview with one U.S. media, Biden's senior advisor Jennifer Psaki spoke about the diversity of Biden's cabinet picks after his calls with top progressive voices, Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to include progressive voices in the process following the progressives' role electing Biden. Last week, Biden said he had made his selection for Treasury Secretary, but has yet to announce it, although he said that his choice would be a great fit to every sector of the Democratic Party. Several U.S. news networks reported on Sunday that Biden will also be announcing his Secretary of State appointee as his longtime confidant Anthony Blinken, a former top-level national officer from the Obama administration who also worked with the president-elect regarding foreign policies for almost 2 decades. According to the GSA, they are yet to ascertain the presidential result, mainly due to the still ongoing legal challenges from Trump's campaign. Sonicos UNTV News and Rescue, USA. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Inaugural flights between Hong Kong and Singapore has been deferred by the two governments under the Hong Kong-Singapore Air Travel Bubble Agreement. Earl Biones will tell us why. Live. Yes, Earl?
LC, the travel bubble arrangement or TBA between Hong Kong and Singapore has been postponed due to sudden surge of COVID-19 community transmission in Hong Kong. Both Hong Kong Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Edward Yao and Singapore's Transport Minister Ong Ye Kung has agreed on Saturday afternoon to defer the agreed travel bubble by 2 weeks, which was originally meant to kick off yesterday. Yao further said that the deferral of the inaugural flights is a suitable and responsible arrangement, as he sees chances of making immediate adjustments are high if it was launched yesterday. The same announcement has been made by Singapore's Transport Minister Ong Ye Kung on Facebook, stating that the situation in Hong Kong is evolving. That's why it was necessary that he discuss the issue with Hong Kong Secretary for Commerce Edward Yao and agree on the deferral of the air travel bubble by 2 weeks and revisit the agreement in early part of December. Meanwhile, the Hong Kong government has arranged for free COVID-19 testing within the 3 districts of Tsuen Wan, Sai Kung, and Tai Po after confirmed COVID-19 cases were found in the districts. Hong Kong has also placed some restrictions which will last until Thursday this week, banning all live performances and dancing in catering premises, including bars and pubs. All social gathering venues have been asked to close.
I can't predict the size of this cluster. It's growing quite fast. That's why we are very concerned and we try everything to try to control the spread, including the issuance of the notice, compulsory testing notice, in an attempt to try to ask all the people to come forward for testing, and so that we know the size of this outbreak and prevent further spread.
The governments of Hong Kong and Singapore agreed to continuously monitor the COVID-19 situation in both countries, exchange relevant data and statistics, and maintain close communication. Elsie?
Thank you, Earl, for that live report. France has ordered for the culling of 1,000 minks after they were found to have been infected by coronavirus. Marvy Delphine will give us the details live. Marvy?
LC, analysis from Agency for Food, Environmental and Occupational Health and Safety, or ANSES, revealed that a mutated coronavirus strain was circulating in one of 4 mink farms in France, in the Eure-et-Loir region. Concerned French ministers immediately ordered the culling of all the 1,000 mink present on the farm and the elimination of products derived from these animals in order to protect public health against COVID-19. Analyses are still in progress in the last 2 farms, and the results are expected during this week. If results prove to be positive in one of these 2 farms, the same slaughtering measures as in the first concerned farm would be applied, while no mink breeders in the 4 farms tested positive to COVID-19. Since mid-November, French authorities have been testing the mink farms after a mutated coronavirus strain named Cluster 5 was discovered in mink farms in Denmark. Cluster 5 caused global panic to public health experts after it was found to be resistant and less sensitive to antibodies developed by people who had recovered from COVID-19. It is feared that Cluster 5 would be able to slip past promising new COVID-19 vaccines, which work by stimulating an antibody response. Minister of Agriculture and Food Julien Denormandie assures that all health and biosecurity measures have been taken. He also also specified that France faces a very different situation from Denmark, where the discovery of cluster 5 resulted in the slaughter of 15 to 17 million animals. Minister De Normandie justified the culling of 1,000 mink from the contaminated farm by further stating that the protection of our fellow citizens requires us to take these health measures, and breeders will be compensated for the losses. COVID-19 outbreaks in mink have since also been reported elsewhere in Europe, notably in Sweden, Greece, and the Netherlands. Elsie?
Thank you, Marvi, for that report live from Australia. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern won't engage in interpreting China's threat to pluck out the eyes of nations that accuse it of eroding Hong Kong's democracy and freedom of speech. The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance last week issued a joint statement of criticizing China's imposition of new rules to disqualify elected legislators in Hong Kong. The group expects China to live up to its international commitments and its duty to the people of Hong Kong. They also urged the Chinese central authorities to reconsider their action against Hong Kong's elected legislature and immediately reinstate the Legislative Council members. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian responded against the Five Eyes statement by saying they should face up the reality that the former British colony had been returned to China. PM Ardern said New Zealand's relationship with China is about maintaining foreign policy, independence, and being consistent and predictable. And those are the reasons behind the news here in New Zealand and in other parts of the globe. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on the right side of your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. Back to you, William.
Thank you, Elsie Marcos, live from New Zealand.
There are happenings that are beyond our sphere of control, such as calamities or natural disasters. In the insurance industry, these happenings are referred to as acts of nature. It is a common misconception that this feature is included in a comprehensive insurance policy. However, some companies don't always include this in the basic packages of their products. So why do you need to consider adding it when planning to buy an insurance for your car or home? Ray Pelayo reports.
Hundreds of vehicles in Marikina City were damaged by the flood brought by the torrential rainfall when Typhoon Ulysses hit Luzon. Houses near the Marikina River, especially in Provident Village, were again submerged in floodwaters, just like what happened when Ondoy struck in 2009. Aside from floods, geological disasters like earthquakes and sinkholes are also a threat to your investments. With all these uncertainties, an insurance is a way to protect your finances and investments whenever something happens. In the insurance industry, if you want to protect your vehicles from damages caused by calamities or natural disasters, you may want to review your present property insurance to make sure this is included. Such damages to property caused by natural calamities falls under acts of nature insurance, on top of your comprehensive insurance because this is not normally covered. According to Deputy Insurance Commissioner Randy Escolango, a vehicle owner must pay an additional 0.5% charge based on the total amount of your car.
Meron muna kayong kukuning insurance. Yan nga po yung comprehensive insurance. At ito pong acts of nature add-on lamang or idadagdag nyo lamang coverage.
If you have availed of the acts of nature coverage and want to make a claim, you can follow the standard claims procedures for comprehensive insurance. The official noted that the whole insured amount can be claimed if the floodwaters reaches the dashboard of your vehicle. The insurance company will just deduct the participation fee and depreciation value.
Bakit ito dashboard ang usapan? Kasi pag sa dashboard, yan ba yung pag lumagpas na dyan, ay lagpas na rin dun sa iyong sa hood mo, dun sa harapan. Nandun yung makina, di ba ho? O, ibig sabihin, sira na yung iyong makina, nabasa na ng buo. Yan. Kaya, karaniwan po, ay dinideclare na yan na total loss. And therefore, babayaran niya ng buo ng insurance company.
Meanwhile, if the vehicle was not totally submerged in floodwaters, the insurance coverage will assess the cost for repairing it. Similarly, if you want to protect your house from natural calamities and disasters, you should include the Acts of Nature insurance, as a fire insurance only protects your investment from fires. The insurance company may also decide if they will allow the inclusion of damages caused by volcanic eruptions, especially when your house is near an active volcano. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And those are the reasons behind the news, November 23, 2020. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people, we give glory to God.